Oops, I was on mute. Am I audible? I'll just go and check on YouTube once if I'm audible or not, and then we'll get started. Yep, I could hear myself. I see there are 24 likes already. Thanks, guys, who have dropped in their likes. Cool. This is going to be pretty brief of a session where we'll go and cover the core aspects about this particular hackathon, so you can use it as a good starting point in your journey, and hopefully it should help you get some leverage by the end of this particular session. Okay, cool. My name is Mudit. I'm currently working with Pathway as a director of growth. And let's dive right into the session. So I'll be sharing my screen and taking you through a few components. If you have any doubts, then please do put them in the comment section so that I can look at them. Okay. Let me just make sure that I'm sharing the right screen. No. Yes. Okay. I think you should be able to see it now. Please let me know if you are unable to see it or if there are any issues with it. Okay. Da-da-da. This is good. Yep, this one is good. Cool. So I think you should be able to see it right now. First of all, welcome to this particular hackathon. Um, I really hope that you get to take something as um, a tangible outcome at the end of this hackathon. My goal in in this particular session is to give you a head start so that you don't have to start from absolute scratch and you find it a bit easier. Okay, makes sense. If you got any queries, then please put them in the comment section so that they do not go unanswered. So first of all, first things first, you have to register on this Unstop link as a part of the registration process. Make sure you go through the mandatory steps and all that are required here. Okay, this particular hackathon is organized by our friends at IIT Ropar, which is Iota cluster, and it's organized on Unstop platform. If you're a college student based in India, I think this is a platform that you would already be a part of. Okay, so first off, I like if this was a live offline session, I would have asked how many of you have already used Pathway. If you've already built some projects, you can put the GitHub repo for them in the comment section. If not, then I'll give you a quick introduction of what Pathway so that it's easier for you to get a sense of it. Now, the website is pathway.com. It's not Pathways. It is not um, the Pathway or anything. It's not pathway.ai. It's pathway.com. Okay, when you go on pathway.com, you'll be taken to this waitlist page. Because Pathway is currently working towards publishing some interesting stuff. What it is exactly, you'll get to know about it. We wanted to understand the what, and we are fundamentally changing the way models think. So you can understand it has something to do with AI models. What it exactly is something that we will be revealing eventually, very soon actually. So if you've not yet added yourself to the waitlist, please go ahead and drop your email IDs there. You'll scroll below, you'll be taken to the section which says access our tooling here. Okay. By the way, these are some of my amazing colleagues at Pathway. These are three of the four co-founders at Pathway. This is Adrian, who was my first manager here, a really competent guy. He did his PhD at 20. Then he started Spodge, which is one of the world's first competitive coding platforms. My experience revolves a lot around spending some time as one of the leaders at. I used to lead initiatives at CodeChef, which is a competitive coding platform based out of India, and we were very much dependent on Spodge, the platform. In fact, a lot of the early platforms like Codeforces and all also have taken learnings from what Spodge did as a platform. Is what I can say as a previous person from CodeChef. So this guy was one of the co-founders of it. After doing his PhD at 20, he did industrial research for 15 years or so. This is Jan Chorosky, who did his PhD in, I think, deep learning or neural networks, one of the two. But he has worked with Google Brain. He has co-authored papers with Geoff Hinton, who is the Nobel Physics Prize winner. Zuzana, who's the CEO of Pathway, among the top 100 geniuses, like one of the top influential people in the world of AI. She did her PhD in complex systems, I think. Yeah. So complex algorithm, something on to that tune. I do not remember exactly her exact thesis, but anyway, relevant people to look and follow. So you can check out the socials and all. Now I'll go and take you through the core element that is important for you as a part of this particular hackathon. So if you want to access any resource on Pathway website, you need to scroll below and visit this section, which is access our tooling here, or scroll to the bottom and come to the section called as download our tooling. When you will come and click on this one, you will be taken to the page called as pathway.com hyphen framework, a backslash framework. Now, this is where whatever we are going to do as a part of this particular hackathon would involve you building applications on top of the Pathway framework. Now, what is the Pathway framework? Pathway framework is essentially used for building live AI systems. What is that? So, let's understand the world of data quickly. If you look at any application today, typically the processing of data can happen in two ways. First way is that you process it in batch mode. Okay, that you collect data and we're dealing at we're dealing about use cases where data is operating at scale and it's some real world production use case. It's not a baby project. Things are in production. So how do you process data? One is that you get the data, you prepare a batch of it. Okay, let the data accumulate for a while, let's say for a day, a month, an year, and then after that you do some transformation on top of it and then you push it ahead. Okay, any kind of transformation, that can be something as simple as, let's say, um, kind of, a simple matrix addition. Okay, or something as simple as, let's say, if your time zone is coming in, if let's say, I'm running a company and let's say I'm running Uber, and a lot of cabs are operating in the US, a lot of cabs are operating in India, and I simply want to update the metric of the number of cars, the number of rides that were taken in the day. So I'll simply go to the end of the day and look at that particular number, um, as per American time zone, as per Indian time zone, and then I will go and store it in a server where it is in the same time zone. Otherwise, um, processing and interpreting data will be difficult. So I will collect data, I'll prepare a batch of it, and then process it. That's one way of looking at it. Other way is that the moment I get the data, then and there itself I process it. Okay, that's what we call as live data or streaming data. Why streaming? Because we are assuming them as streams of data. The data is flowing in real time. So, a very common analogy that I give in colleges is that if you are a student and you're kind of living in a hostel, there are two ways of washing clothes. First is that you would accumulate all your clothes in the corner of your room. You will wait for the weekend to come in, and then you'll wash them all at once, right? The other option is that the moment a sock or a t-shirt gets dirty, you'll wash it then and there. Now, which one of them is more common? The batch mode is more common, right? So similar to that, even in the world of data, batch processes are a lot more common than streaming. Why? Because processing data in real time involves you working with data in a very much smarter way, and the traditional frameworks that existed for streaming, for example, things like Spark, Apache, Flink, and all, they were the traditional tools, but they were not the easiest ones to get started with. And not talking specifically about a particular framework, but the traditional tools, they throw a lot of errors. So and then they operate on the JVM stack, which is Java stack. So essentially, if you look at an AI project where I'm trying to build an AI model, I may be inherently working as a data scientist who has worked on Python all my life, and then if I simply have to learn Java or have to work with a particular framework because it is, you know, it is it'll help me process data in real time, I'll be like, hey, let me do that later. Let me work in a batch mode instead. Okay. So what Pathway does is it's a framework where you can do both. You can do batch plus real time batch real time streaming. They are used interchangeably. So streaming, however, can be near real time also. We'll get into it later on. But let's, for now, in a rudimentary level of understanding, let's simply understand that there are two ways of processing data: batch and streaming, or batch or live. And in Pathway, you can do both of them. You can do batch data processing also and real time data processing also. Let's understand this with a quick example in the AI world. something like ChatGPT, the models or any LLM that exists today, like ChatGPT, Mistral, or Anthropic's Claude, all these models, they are trained in batch mode, which means that their data is accumulated and then they are refined after a while in batches. That's why if you ask a question about yesterday and you give no internet access to the model, it will not be able to answer it. Okay. Whereas if you look at a maps application, let's say Apple Maps or Google Maps, let's say there is something that happens on this road. You are coming from Delhi to Chandigarh, and something happens on a particular highway. The maps application will know that this has happened. It will not go about recommending the same route. It will know that there's a collision ahead or there's something that has happened, and this is thus no more the best outcome or the best recommended choice. Why? Because these models are learning in real time. So when you're working with Pathway, you can build these kind of applications. And Live AI is about building AI applications that can think and learn in real time. Okay, that's some introduction about what Live AI is as a concept. Um, my goal in the session is also to teach you a little bit and then walk you through the problem statements and hackathon details, so that it's easier for you to go through it. If you quickly interpret these three elements, it's important. You can easily set up data ingest from 300 plus sources with automatic synchronization. Automatic sync means that the data is being processed in real time. 300 plus sources, that this means that you can connect data from a lot of data sources. You can go to the developer documentation of Pathway by clicking on get started, and when you will be taken to the section, there will be a connector section. If you click on connectors, you can see what those 300 plus connectors are. Okay, so you can connect data from all these 300 plus sources and work with Pathway. Okay, where data is coming from these places, and whether it's an input connector or an output connector, that you can understand by this. Okay, now that's first thing. Second thing is you can build apps that serve real-time features like vector search and anomaly alerts. Your hackathon is going to revolve a lot around this, and we'll understand this very briefly. The third one is you can get accurate AI insights from terabytes of connected documents and data tables. We'll skip that in the interest of time. Like, that's not the core focus of this hackathon. Now that you understand Pathway, let me quickly take you to this particular problem statement of the hackathon. At this point in time, you understand what real-time data processing is. You understand how it's different from processing data in a batch mode. You understand what Pathway really excels at. Pathway, if you know, is the world's fastest data processing engine. Pathway benchmarks. Yeah. Yes. So if you look at it, it's these are the other frameworks which are out there. This is essentially latency, so the lesser the better. So it is 90x stronger over its competitors. The framework inherently, it is written in Rust. It's an optimized version of. It's based on differential data flow, and it is refined on top of it. And while the engine is written in Rust, Pathway as a framework is available to you in Python language. So if you know Python, you're all good to go. You don't have to worry about learning Java or Rust. Okay, that's some brief introduction to Pathway. Now I'll simply go to this hackathon problem statement. So important dates and timelines. Right now, the submissions are ongoing, and it will be ongoing till September 23rd. We are in the submission round right now. There's a doubt clearing session that will be organized by my colleague Saksham, who will be coming and taking it. There's a registration deadline that is out there. The offline presentation shortlist will be listed on September 28th. You obviously need to complete this process to be able to get shortlisted for the offline presentation, which will happen on October 4th. Okay. Now, moving forward, the prize pool for the hackathon, we have 70,000 worth of prize. There's a cash prize plus goodies both. You have 15,000 rupees of cash for the first one, 12,000 for the first runner-up, and 8,000 for the second runner-up, along with goodies. Okay. All the participants, they get a certificate. You must make a submission though. You cannot simply register and go away. You must make a submission, and try to make it a good submission. Try to give it your best. We'll try to share some feedback with you along the process, at least if you're making it to the offline finale, so that way you can also learn how you can refine your projects and possibly use it as a good showcase for your recruitment prospects by the end of your third year or your final year. Okay. Now the problem statement of the hackathon is in is in three buckets. First one is an open innovation. So it says okay. First off, you can go through the official problem statement document here if you want to. Sorry, just give me a minute. Okay, cool. Yes. So we are looking at three tracks for this particular hackathon. First one is the open innovation track. To really appreciate and understand what this track is about, you should go and click on this particular document and understand what it is covering. It starts with explaining the power of real-time RAG. So before that, let me quickly explain RAG to you in less than 2 minutes. If you quickly look at any large language model, okay, we just understood that they don't learn in real time. Especially all the models out there today, they do not learn in real time. Okay, so how do you solve it? And first of all, why do you need to solve it? Let's take any use case where you want to ask your large language model, like ChatGPT, a question which is very much about you or your use case. For example, you want to ask a question like, hey, when is my next exam coming up? What is the schedule of my examination? Is it released yet? Has the professor already published it? These are some questions which revolve around the large language model dealing with a data which is not a part of the training data of the model, first off. Second, hypothetically speaking, if even if you go to a use case where it were a part of the training data, let's say something like who won the last FIFA World Cup, in that particular problem statement, if you look at it, the answer to that question will depend on the cutoff date of the large language model, which means that if the model is trained up to a particular date in 2024, that's the date till which it will be able to answer that question. Which means that if you ask it the question, it will go about saying the last World Cup was won by, if you're looking at football, it will say that the last World Cup was won by Argentina. Okay, but if you ask the same question in 2026, which is when the next World Cup will be, and let's say there is some other winner, let's say the Portugal wins that particular World Cup, fingers crossed. In that case, this model will not be able to answer it then and there because training data is outdated. So it will still go and say that the last World Cup was won by Argentina. Okay, so um, this particular question, when you look at it, while it's a part of the training data of the model, it's something which is going to evolve continuously. And this is about a 4-year period where the model has enough time to go and get updated itself. But there are a lot of use cases where the question may be very specific about something which is happening on a day-to-day basis or something which is changing on an hourly basis. For example, you might want to ask, hey, tell me the number of boxes that are stuck in my Chandigarh shipyard. I don't think there's a shipyard in Chandigarh, but in my Chandigarh backyard, let's say. Okay, and you are working with a trucking company of sorts. Now, this question involves your model having access to your data of the trucks, where they are, their live location, possibly the number of boxes at a particular yard, right? And it also requires you to have update this continuously. So it's not just about giving access to your private data, which is about the number of boxes at a particular yard. It also is dealing with the data that is changing continuously because boxes will move, right? If let's say there are 10 boxes right now, by afternoon it may change to something like 12 or 0. So your model cannot go about giving this outdated information. So what do you use to get the output? You use something called as retrieval augmented generation, RAG. You retrieve the right answer first, and then you simply pass that answer to the LLM. using RAG and say that this is the right answer, and then the model will go about giving that answer. Okay, and how they do it is with the help of something called as a, traditionally they use something like a vector search, but if you look at Google also, Google is nothing but a type of retrieval only, no, a retriever of sorts. Like Google search, they, you are put a query on the Google platform, it will retrieve the answer from the internet. And I'm not talking about this Gen AI era. Even if you search something on Google 10 years ago, it will go about giving an answer. So they will basically search something and give you an answer. So the way RAG works is that if you're able to search something and get an answer, then you can simply pass that answer to the model in the backend, not the entire set of links. You can directly pass on the answer itself, and then it will know how to generate it. It's like whispering the answer to the model in their ears, so they can go about giving an answer. And that's how RAG works. And what this graph talks about, or what is vector search? Vector is just a another way of doing search on uh, your data, where you would convert into a format called as a vector format. Imagine it like a coordinate, and the essentially the thing that happens in a vector format is that you are positioning words, you're converting words into a mathematical um, matrix of sort, where the matrix is kind of showcasing the location of that particular word in a vector space, and you're grouping them in such a fashion that similar meaning items are grouped together, they're kept together. For example, in this diagram, if you look at it, the greens are kept similar, right? Kept together. And orange and red are kept together. Whereas if you look at the words of orange and red, while they're very similar, while the words are very different, they're kept together. Why? Because their meanings are many times a bit similar. So what you do in vector search is that you group them together, and what it does for your output is you're able to ask questions in a more natural language. So today, if you ask your elder brother or sister, you should say that Googling is a skill. You should know how to Google, and I think it probably still is. But earlier, you had to dabble with a lot of keywords. If your search query does not include the keyword, you will not get the output. But today you might get it. Why? Because they have also combined something like RAG in their search results. So if you search like, okay, uh, who is the founder of if you search this, then it will give this particular output. Okay, this is not the company. This is the one that we are looking at. Yes. Okay, and this is the right answer, by the way. So how was it able to come up with it? Because it used natural language as well. Okay, so you now get the point how it works and everything. What RAG is. Now, what is dynamic RAG? If you want to understand dynamic RAG, then it's a part of one of the blogs that my colleague Saksham wrote. Okay, there you can find the definition of dynamic RAG quickly. Okay, no, not this one. Okay, wait. Let me just pull that particular blog for you. Um, it's in the developer blog. I think Gemini one. This one talks about. Okay, yes, cool. This was able to answer it. So in the traditional rack system, the documents are indexed once, and then your indexes. So what is happening is, you need to understand, whenever you are dealing with a rack system or a GenAI application where you're connecting it to an external data source, the data source is where what you're doing essentially in a rack system is that you are putting your documents from which are your private documents in a particular in a particular store, in document store of sorts. Another document store, you are indexing it in such a in such a fashion such that index so that finding the information that you want to find becomes easier. And what you inherently call this process is called as indexing. Okay, like you're indexing your documents in a way that retrieving or searching the right answer at the last moment when I'm asking question becomes easy. Okay, now indexing, if you look at it, if you're simply building an application of by just simply following a YouTube tutorial, what will end up happening is that you will still end up building a RAG application, but then those indexes will be static in nature. What does that mean? It means that if somebody goes and makes a change in the document store, for example, the schedule of your examination, let's say it is not released, or it says that the next examination for this particular, it's a next examination is on networking, it's on 4th of September, let's say, the timetable, and then the timetable is changed, it is pushed to 7th of September. What will end up happening is, because the application that you have built, it has access to the previous index, it will still go and say that the exam is on 4th, the examination is on the 4th, and that's a problem because that's the wrong answer. You're not just giving out an output, you're giving the wrong output. So the person believes that they know it, but they know the wrong stuff. So when you're building a RAG application using Pathway, your indexes are always dynamic in nature. We call this live indexing. And this application is this process will be called as dynamic RAG, where your indexes are updated on a constant basis. Okay, you got the concept. Now what does that mean? If you're looking at open innovation track of this particular hackathon, you're dealing with preparing a particular project which uses RAG bare minimum and some other data types of data also as a starting point, and it is serving a particular use case where having the ability to process the latest information is helpful. For example, let me give you a use case. If you are building an application where you want to ask, hey, tell me how, let's say you are building an application which is about employee onboarding for a particular company. Now employee onboarding practices do not change on a daily basis. The document once built will stay like that for at least 6 months or 1 year. So in that case, your static documents are totally okay. Now, if you pick up problem statement like that, while you're dealing with RAG and you're giving access to a static data, that's not a good enough example because this data is going to be static. So you better not use Pathway in it at all, or you don't even have to deal with any level of complexity. That's not what we expect from the best engineers at IIT Ropar or beyond, right? What we expect is that you pick a particular use case where you understand that, hey, this is where the document is expected to change. So hence, while using Pathway, I'm not just going about doing it because, hey, it's asked to me in a particular bootcamp. No, I'm building a meaningful project where the choice of architecture and the choice of framework that I'm using really makes a difference. Got the point? So the first one is about this one. Let's look at a few examples. A chatbot that answers complex questions about current events based on a live feed of news articles. Yeah, let's say you are building an application that can help UPSC aspirants understand the latest news from today. Okay, that's something. Um, or that can simply help them reason about the latest articles in Hindu. Okay, so that's an example around it. The other one can be a tool for teams that ingest documents from a shared folder in real time. Now, the important element is shared folder. Why? Because let's say if I am building a tool for a startup and there are 10 employees and you are connecting it to a Google Drive folder. Now, that's good. Even if it's static and it has documents, that's fine. You indexed it, everything. Once that's fine. But what happens if, let's say, one of the employees realize that, hey, this document that I added yesterday, that was a wrong one. Let me go and change it. Now, suddenly they simply go and change a line in a Google document. Okay. Now the problem in that particular case is that your document store that you've indexed will be outdated all of a sudden. Hence, if you're using Pathway to connect to it, it will be much more safer. Even if you're not dealing with a very time-sensitive query, just the fact that you know that these indexes are always up to date is very helpful. Okay. A dashboard that monitors live data from IoT sensors and allows users to ask natural language questions about system status. You got the point. Okay. The second track is about life in tech AI solution. This is about building projects that revolve with financial documents and financial use cases. Now, what are those kind of use cases? You can think about it. Example ideas are listed for you. You can ingest stock prices. You can ingest news using News API. There are a few free APIs also, or you can ingest, let's say, the latest financial report published by a particular company and analyze that in natural language using this particular solution. Or you can build something you in the using the in the logistics domain. For example, let's say if I want to ask, if you look at it, my latest we recently released this thing called as let me go beyond it. We recently released something called as the MCP server also. You should know what an MCP server is, but if you one second, just pause screen sharing. I'll go to that particular post that you get a clarity of what it is about. Yes. Yes, this one. Okay. So if you look at this particular post, it is talking about Pathway MCP server. This particular blog is a very good one if you're a very beginner level in the MCP world. You can understand what it is. So let's understand a particular query that is mentioned here. How many orders are pending in Frankfurt? Let's say building an application that can help an operations manager ask this kind of question. Now, this is a very time sensitive question because the number of orders pending in Frankfurt will not be the same at any given point in time. So what you do is you capture the live metrics about the number of boxes in a particular airport in real time in pathway tables, and then you also capture um, processes around the internal documents around my operation, so that I get to know that okay, this is when this is the process, like from Frankfurt it is supposed to head towards this next place, something like that. Okay. So yeah, anyway, these kind of questions also you can answer. This is a very logistic specific use case, and it is relevant to this particular track, which is logistics pulse. Okay. So this is a brief about the problem statements that we are looking at. Now let me quickly run you through a few resources that you can get started with. Okay. So if you go on the website of Pathway, you will quickly see something called as the free LLM bootcamp. This is a bootcamp which is around RAG 101. So you can go and these are some of the educators behind the bootcamp. This is a free bootcamp. You can take it without any cost. So you simply need to register here. When you register for the bootcamp, start taking it. It's not a very elaborate one, so you can complete it quickly and learn how to build some of the projects. There is a hands-on module within the bootcamp. That way, you'll learn how to write the application code for Pathway and build projects yourself. Okay. Registering is very simple. You just click on register now. I think yeah. You just go through the process and then you'll have access to it. Okay. Now the next one is apart from this particular bootcamp, if you want to learn through blogs, you can also go to the developer blog and either go to the community section or go to the all section and read some of the blogs. The blog that I read right now was around beginner's guide to RAG apps. This one, you can search it here, beginner, and you will find this one. This one will give you a brief understanding of what RAG is. It talks about vector search. Today, just so you know, right now the current LLM, the current RAG projects, they use a mixture of techniques. They just don't rely on vector search. They also use something called as uh, BM25 or they use hybrid search, we call it, where you are combining vector search with some other technique. And doing these kind of techniques is very easy within Pathway. Simply use the you just mention the type of retrieval within the uh, application code and it will be sorted out. That's how easy it is. If you want to see a few examples on how you can go about it, then you can go through these blogs here. These blogs, if you go through them, you will see that they will usually feature working with YAML files. Now, YAML files is a very easy and quick way for you to build an application in production setting quickly. Okay, so either you can use this. Okay, you can use using YAML files, or you can learn how to write the application code using the bootcamp. There are more. There are a lot of projects also which are from the community in the community section of this particular website. Okay, so you just come to community tab here, and you'll see a lot of projects. For example, let me open a new one. This one was open right now. So here you can. This is the pretty longer project. There are some more recent ones also. This one, I think, this is a great project, but it has a limitation. Let me look at this one. It has a better execution, I think, as far as I recall. But anyway, if you go through it, you can see the architecture and everything, how they've implemented it and all. Okay. So you can go through it, you can understand the theory and everything, and build it yourself. I think this is built by your friends at IIT Ropar itself. Great. I think this Yugam is from Ropar as far as I recall. Yep. So you can go and check his project and like their team's project and understand a lot more about it. This is another source where you can go and learn. Okay. Apart from that, apart from the boot camps and everything, and this particular blog section, what you can also do apart from these things is that you can go and check out the social media of Pathway. There you will see a lot of projects are showcased on a time to time basis with some introduction to it around how, and when you look at them, you will get some clarity around how they are selling the idea of their project. You need to understand when you're building projects, if you're, I believe if you're a student, one of the core outcomes that you might want to have from the hackathon is getting a better career prospects eventually, right? So whenever a good company tries to hire talent, one of the parameters that we try to look at is that if you have built projects that you're passionate about or not. That's a very common requirement. Okay, so what it means is that if you're posting a particular project on your GitHub repo, then if I ask you a question about why you built it, you should have a reasoning to it. If I ask a question that, hey, why did you use Pathway there, you should have a reasoning for it. That is what makes you a good engineer. So uh, when you look at these kind of posts that Pathway has made, then they will also give you some clarity around how you can go about creating your presentation as well and putting your best foot forward. So that was all from my side. We've understood live indexing, we've understood streaming briefly, we have understood RAG, we've understood dynamic RAG, we've seen 3 problem statements of Pathway. I walked you through some of the resources. Okay, one very important thing that I'm yet to show is the app template section of Pathway. Let me quickly show that. We just click on this particular logo, you will be taken to the pathway.com/framework page, and you need to click on the app templates side. When you click on app templates, you will come to this page where there are a lot of templates hosted. What are these templates? These templates are essentially projects that can be copy pasted quickly. Okay, and you can build them yourself. Okay, now you're not supposed to simply copy paste them and not care about what you're really doing, but it's a good starting point. So you can look at them. Okay. So yeah, you can go about looking at these examples and building after them. An important thing to remember though is that the Pathway framework, if you are using it, then it will not. And if you're using a Windows laptop right now, Pathway does not work natively on Windows laptop. So either you use a containerization tool like Docker, or you use an operating system that is Linux based, something like Ubuntu or Mac OS, or you use something like Google Colab. Okay, that's some clarity around it. So yeah, that's pretty much about the resources. I hope you found this session useful. I'll wait for a couple of minutes to see if there are any questions. If not, then we will wrap it up. By the way, make sure you join yourself on the waitlist of Pathway if you've not done it already. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can also follow and subscribe this particular page by Iota IIT Ropar. So yeah, if you have any questions, then I'm waiting for the next 15 seconds, and then we'll wrap it up. Cool. I don't see any questions. All the best for the hackathon. Make sure you go through all the mandatory process and the requirements for the hackathon, and we are there to support you along the way. All the best.